Empathy is the bridge that connects us as human beings. It's the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to feel what they feel, and to respond with kindness and understanding. But what happens when someone wears empathy like a mask? What if they can imitate compassion so convincingly that you don't realize the truth until it's too late? This is one of the most chilling red flags of an evil person. They lack true empathy, but are skilled at pretending they care. They study emotions, not to connect, but to control. They learn the right words, the right facial expressions, the right moments to offer comfort. Yet beneath the surface, there is nothing real. At first, they seem warm, understanding, even nurturing. They know exactly what to say when you're struggling, mirroring your emotions as if they truly understand. They might comfort you in your lowest moments, listen attentively, and offer advice that seems wise and supportive. But over time, something feels off. You begin to notice that their kindness comes with conditions. Their concern is selective. They offer support when there's an audience, when it benefits them, or when they stand to gain something in return. Behind closed doors, their warmth vanishes. When no one is watching, their indifference surfaces. These people are emotional chameleons. They learn how to mimic human connection by observing others, but they don't feel it themselves. If you watch closely, you'll see the cracks in the facade. Maybe it's the way they comfort you in one breath but mock your vulnerability in the next. Maybe it's how they claim to care but never actually show up when it truly matters. When tragedy strikes, they may offer rehearsed words of sympathy, yet their actions remain unchanged. They don't help unless there's something in it for them. They don't grieve unless they can make the moment about themselves. A person without empathy is dangerous because they don't see people as people, they see them as tools. They manipulate emotions with surgical precision, using guilt, obligation, and affection as weapons. They know when to turn on the charm and when to withdraw it to make you chase their approval. If they hurt you, they don't feel remorse. They only regret getting caught. If they make you cry, they won't comfort you unless someone else is watching. They lack the internal compass that tells them this is wrong, this will hurt someone, because to them, people are merely chess pieces in a game they intend to win. One of the most telling signs of their false empathy is how they react to others' pain, especially pain they didn't cause. A genuinely empathetic person feels for others even when there's nothing in it for them. They cry at a stranger's heartbreak, feel deeply for a friend's suffering, and offer help without needing recognition. But someone who lacks empathy, they remain cold, indifferent, or worse. They pretend to care while secretly feeling nothing. If someone's suffering inconveniences them, they dismiss it. If someone's pain makes them feel superior, they lean into it. True empathy means connection, but a person devoid of it only seeks control. So how do you protect yourself from someone like this? Pay attention to consistency. Do their words match their actions? Do they show up when there's nothing to gain? Do they express concern for others even when no one is watching? Do they feel joy in your happiness or only satisfaction in your dependence on them? Evil doesn't always appear in obvious cruelty. It often wears a smile, extends a hand, and whispers words that seem comforting. But if you look closely, you'll see the hollowness behind their eyes. And that hollowness is your warning. They lack empathy, but they fake it well. Guilt and fear are two of the most powerful emotions a person can experience. They shape our choices, our relationships, and even our sense of self. When used with love and integrity, they can guide us to make amends, to protect ourselves, and to grow. But in the hands of someone with bad intentions, guilt and fear become weapons, silent chains that bind you to a reality that serves only them. An evil person knows how to twist your emotions, how to make you feel like you are always one step away from disappointing them, from failing them, from losing them. They create a world where guilt is the leash and fear is the cage. At first, it feels subtle. Maybe they make a passing comment about how much they do for you, about how they sacrifice their time, energy, or happiness just to be in your life. It sounds like love. It sounds like devotion. But there's an undertone of expectation, of pressure. If you don't meet their demands, if you set a boundary, if you prioritize your own well-being, suddenly you're selfish. Suddenly you're ungrateful. The guilt creeps in and you find yourself bending, compromising, apologizing, not because you did something wrong, but because they made you feel like you did. Fear follows right behind guilt. Maybe it's fear of losing their approval, fear of being abandoned, or fear of what they'll do if you stop playing by their rules. They use your past mistakes as ammunition, bringing them up in moments designed to break you down. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? If you really loved me, you wouldn't do this. Everyone else would have left you by now, but I stayed. Their words are carefully chosen to make you question your own worth, to make you believe that you owe them something. Your time, your loyalty, your silence. This manipulation can be even more dangerous when fear is used as a direct threat. They might not need to raise their voice, slam a door, or lift a hand to make you afraid. The real power lies in their unpredictability. One moment they're warm and loving, the next they're cold and distant, punishing you with silence, with passive-aggressive comments, with a sudden shift in their mood that leaves you walking on eggshells. You never know what will set them off. So you adjust, you shrink, you tiptoe through conversations, making sure not to upset them, making sure they're comfortable, even when it costs you your peace. One of the most sinister aspects of this kind of manipulation is that it's invisible to the outside world. To others, they may appear charming, kind, even selfless. They craft an image of themselves as the long-suffering friend, the devoted partner, the caring family member who only wants the best for you. And if you try to explain the manipulation, if you try to name the ways they've made you feel trapped, you risk sounding irrational. They were just joking. They didn't mean it that way. You're overreacting. That's the beauty of their deception. By the time you realize what's happening, they've already convinced everyone else that you're the problem. So how do you break free from their grip? The first step is recognizing the manipulation for what it is. Guilt is not love. Fear is not loyalty. You do not owe anyone your happiness just because they've made you feel like you do. Pay attention to the way someone makes you feel about yourself. Do you feel supported or do you feel controlled? Do you feel empowered or do you feel afraid? Real love, real friendship, real family, real connection doesn't require you to live in guilt and fear. And the moment you see that truth, the chains they've wrapped around you start to break. Some people walk into a room and bring peace. Their presence feels like a steady hand on your shoulder, a calm reassurance that things will be okay. And then there are those who seem to bring nothing but chaos wherever they go. Drama follows them like a shadow, conflict seems to erupt in their wake, and no matter the situation, they always manage to stir up destruction. But here's the truth. It's not an accident. They don't just find themselves in the middle of chaos. They create it, they feed off it, and they thrive in it. For them, peace is boring, stability is a threat, and destruction is the only way they feel powerful. At first, their chaos might seem coincidental. Maybe they tell you stories of how people in their past betrayed them, how they always end up in toxic relationships, how friendships fall apart around them. They frame themselves as the victim, unlucky in love, misunderstood by family, targeted by jealous colleagues. And because you're a compassionate person, you believe them. You think, wow, they've been through so much. But give it time and you'll start to see the pattern. The fights, the broken relationships, the constant drama. It's not happening to them, it's happening because of them. They sow seeds of discord in every relationship they touch. Maybe they whisper half-truths about someone, causing rifts between friends. Maybe they pit people against each other, stirring jealousy and resentment. They manipulate conversations, twist facts, and conveniently leave out key details to make themselves look innocent. And when the inevitable explosion happens, they step back, watching the destruction unfold with feigned innocence. I don't know why people keep turning on me. I was just trying to help. I can't believe they reacted that way. But behind the scenes, they were pulling the strings all along. And when things finally start to settle, when relationships begin to heal, when the dust clears, they can't stand it. Peace makes them restless, so they light another match. Maybe they start a new rumor. Maybe they play the victim again, drawing people back into their web. Maybe they create a crisis, an emotional breakdown, a fabricated emergency, just to pull focus back onto themselves. Chaos is their currency. It keeps people distracted, keeps them too busy to see the truth, keeps them dependent on the one person who always seems to be at the center of it all. But the most dangerous thing about these people is that they don't just destroy relationships, they destroy you. The longer you stay around them, the more exhausted you become. Your mental and emotional energy is spent cleaning up messes they created, fixing problems that shouldn't exist, defending yourself against accusations that were never true. You become drained, anxious, constantly bracing for the next storm. And that's exactly where they want you. Too overwhelmed to see clearly, too emotionally exhausted to leave, too tangled in the chaos to realize they're the ones setting the fires. So how do you escape their cycle of destruction? First, recognize the pattern. Pay attention to who is always at the center of drama. Ask yourself, do things feel more peaceful when they're not around? If the answer is yes, that's a red flag. Protect your peace, guard your energy. Step back and watch what happens when you refuse to engage in their chaos. Because the moment you stop playing their game, you'll see the truth. They don't want harmony, they want control. And the only way to win is to walk away. We all make mistakes, we say things we shouldn't, hurt people we care about, and sometimes make choices that have real consequences. But the difference between a good person and a toxic one is what happens next. A good person acknowledges their mistakes, takes responsibility, and tries to make things right. Someone with a strong moral compass understands that accountability is not a weakness, it's a sign of integrity. But for an evil person, responsibility is something they will never, ever accept. In their world, blame is always someone else's burden to carry, and they are always the misunderstood victim. At first, their denial seems harmless, maybe even understandable. They'll have a reason, an excuse, a perfectly crafted explanation for why it wasn't really their fault. They might blame their childhood, their ex, their job, or even you. I wouldn't have reacted that way if you hadn't pushed me. I only said that because I was under so much stress. You're being too sensitive. I was just joking. Every time they hurt someone, there's a justification. Every time they break trust, there's a distraction. And every time they're confronted, they twist the narrative until you start to wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you are the problem. Over time, you start to notice a pattern. No matter what happens, they are never in the wrong. If they lose a job, it's because their boss had it out for them. If they ruin a friendship, it's because the other person was too dramatic. If a relationship falls apart, it's because their partner didn't appreciate them. Every conflict, every failure, every broken bridge is someone else's fault. They rewrite history to paint themselves as the hero or the victim, never the villain. And if you try to hold them accountable, be prepared for anger, deflection, or manipulation. They don't argue with facts, they argue with emotions. If they can't win with logic, they'll make you feel guilty for even bringing it up. One of the most exhausting things about dealing with a person like this is that nothing ever gets resolved. There is no closure, no growth, no healing. You can explain, plead, even provide evidence, but they will always find a way to avoid accountability. They will lie, gaslight, and twist your words until you feel like you're going in circles. And the more you try to hold them accountable, the more they will lash out. Sometimes with anger, sometimes with silence, sometimes by playing the victim so convincingly that you end up apologizing to them for a situation they created. But the most dangerous part, their refusal to take responsibility doesn't just affect them, it affects you. When you are close to someone like this, you start to internalize their behavior. You find yourself constantly apologizing, even when you haven't done anything wrong. You start to question your own reality, wondering if maybe you are overreacting, if maybe you are expecting too much. You walk on eggshells trying to avoid another situation where you'll somehow end up being blamed. And slowly, without realizing it, you start to lose yourself. So, how do you break free from someone who refuses to take responsibility? First, recognize that you are not obligated to carry their burdens. Their inability to own their actions is not your problem to fix. Stop explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Set boundaries, protect your peace. And most of all, remember this: accountability is the foundation of real relationships. If someone cannot admit when they're wrong, they don't deserve a place in your life, because at the end of the day, love without accountability isn't love, it's control. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can have. It is the ability to see someone in need and extend a hand, to give without expecting anything in return, to love with an open heart. Kind people make the world a softer, safer place. But not everyone sees kindness as something to be cherished. Some see it as an opportunity, a weakness, a tool to be used. An evil person does not appreciate kindness. They exploit it. They take the best parts of you, twist them, and use them to their advantage, leaving you drained, doubting yourself, and questioning whether kindness is even worth it. At first, it feels natural to help them. Maybe they come to you with a sob story about how life has been unfair, how people have mistreated them, how they just need someone to believe in them. And because you do believe in people, because you do have a compassionate heart, you step up, you listen, you offer support, you do small favors and then bigger ones. They make you feel special, chosen, needed, and it feels good at first. But slowly you start to notice a shift. The gratitude fades, the appreciation disappears. What started as a request turns into an expectation. And before you know it, helping them is no longer something you choose to do. It's something you owe them. The worst part is they never ask outright. They manipulate you into offering. They drop hints about their struggles, knowing you'll step in. They act helpless, knowing you'll fix things. They frame their problems in a way that makes you feel responsible for solving them. And if you ever hesitate, if you ever start to feel exhausted, used, or taken for granted, they flip the script. Suddenly, you're the selfish one. After everything I've been through, you're really going to turn your back on me. I thought you were different. I guess I can't count on you like I thought I could. And just like that, guilt creeps in, pulling you right back into their trap. What makes this so dangerous is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion of your boundaries, your self-worth, your energy. At first, you don't even realize it's happening. You tell yourself, I'm just being a good person. I'm just helping someone in need. But over time, the exhaustion sets in. You start to feel empty, drained, like no matter how much you give, it's never enough. Because for them, it is never enough. No matter what you do, no matter how much you sacrifice, they will always need more. And when you have nothing left to give, they will discard you without hesitation, moving on to the next kind soul they can exploit. And here's the hardest truth to accept. They don't actually value your kindness. They don't appreciate it. They don't respect it. To them, kindness is not something to be admired. It's something to be used. They don't see you as a person with limits, needs, and feelings. They see you as a resource. And as long as you keep giving, they will keep taking. It's not that they don't understand what they're doing. They do. They know they are manipulating you. They know they are taking advantage. They just don't care. Because in their mind, they deserve it. And you are simply there to serve them. So how do you protect yourself? First, recognize that kindness should never come at the cost of your own well-being. Real kindness is about giving freely, not being forced into it. Set boundaries and do not apologize for them. Pay attention to who respects your no and who pushes past it. And most importantly, remember this: being kind does not mean being a doormat. You can have a good heart and still refuse to be used. Because real kindness, the kind that changes the world, is never about sacrificing yourself for people who would never do the same for you. One of the most dangerous things an evil person can do isn't something loud or obvious. It doesn't come in the form of yelling, threats, or physical harm. Instead, it's slow, subtle. It happens in whispers, in little shifts in your relationships, in a creeping loneliness that you don't even notice until one day you look around and realize you're completely alone. That's how they work. They isolate you, not by force, but by manipulation. Because once you're alone, once you have no one else to turn to, their control over you is complete. At first, they disguise it as love, protection, or concern. They make it seem like they just want what's best for you. Maybe they suggest that a certain friend doesn't really care about you, that a family member is too controlling, that your coworkers or mentors are jealous of you. I just don't think they have your best interest at heart. I don't like the way they treat you. You deserve better friends. It sounds like they're looking out for you. It sounds like they care, but underneath that concern is a strategy separating you from the people who could help you see the truth. Over time, they create tension between you and your support system. Maybe they start small, planting doubts in your mind. Or maybe they create situations where you have to choose between them and the people who care about you. They might pick fights with your family, make social gatherings feel exhausting, or sulk when you spend time with friends. I just wanted to spend time with you, but I guess your friends are more important. Why do you always listen to them instead of me? I thought we were a team. These guilt-laced statements work. Little by little, you start distancing yourself, not because you don't love the people in your life, but because it's easier than fighting, easier than defending yourself, easier than feeling like you're letting them down. And then one day you realize you have no one left. The people who used to check in have stopped calling because you've pulled away too many times. The friends who once supported you have given up because they don't recognize you anymore. Family members feel pushed aside and no longer try. And that's exactly what the manipulator wanted, because now when they mistreat you, when they gaslight you, when they make you feel worthless, you have no one left to remind you who you really are. No one to help you see that what's happening isn't love, that the way you're being treated isn't normal. They have become your only source of validation, and that means they have full control. This kind of isolation isn't just painful, it's dangerous. Because once you're alone, you become easier to manipulate, easier to break, easier to keep trapped. You start to believe that maybe they're right. Maybe your friends really were toxic. Maybe your family was too controlling. Maybe no one else really does care about you the way they do. And when you believe that, you stop trying to leave. You stop reaching out. You stay, even when you're hurting, because you feel like there's nowhere else to go, and that's exactly how they want it. So how do you break free? First, recognize the pattern. Look at your life before they entered it and compare it to now. Have you lost connections? Have you stopped talking to people who once supported you? Do you feel alone, like no one else would understand what you're going through? If the answer is yes, that's a red flag. Start reconnecting with the people who truly love you. Even if it feels awkward, even if you feel ashamed for letting them go, reach out. Because real love doesn't isolate you. It doesn't cut you off from your support. It strengthens it. And the moment you start rebuilding your connections, the manipulator's power begins to crumble. Because the truth is, they were never trying to protect you. They were trying to own you. And the only way to win is to take your power back. Most people feel a natural sense of empathy when they see someone struggling. If a friend is going through a hard time, we want to support them. If a stranger is suffering, we feel a tug in our hearts to help. That's what makes us human, the ability to connect with others, to feel for them, to care. But some people, they don't just lack empathy, they go beyond indifference. They actually enjoy watching others suffer. They take pleasure in seeing pain, chaos, and destruction unfold around them. And that is one of the darkest, most dangerous traits a person can have. At first, their cruelty is easy to dismiss. Maybe they laugh at someone's misfortune, calling it karma, or saying they had it coming. Maybe they enjoy gossiping about people's failures, picking apart their mistakes like it's entertainment. They might smirk when someone gets embarrassed, whisper cutting remarks when someone is vulnerable, or seem oddly amused when tragedy strikes, especially if it happens to someone they dislike. I knew this would happen to them, they'll say with satisfaction. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first. After all, everyone has a petty moment now and then, right? But with them, it's not just a moment. It's a pattern, a hunger, a thrill that lights up their eyes whenever someone else is hurting. And when they're the ones causing the pain, that's when they truly shine. They know exactly how to hurt people, how to push buttons, how to say the thing that will cut the deepest. And they don't just do it in anger, they do it for fun. They provoke people just to watch them react. They set traps, create drama, and stir conflict just to enjoy the fallout. They love to see others struggle, not because they've been wronged, but because suffering, especially suffering they cause, gives them a twisted sense of power. They love watching people unravel, knowing that they were the ones who pulled the strings. And here's the most chilling part. They know how to hide it. They don't walk around with a sign that says, "I enjoy hurting people." No, they disguise it. They charm people, put on a good face, and act like they care. They might even pretend to be empathetic until someone else's pain gives them an opportunity. Then the mask slips. Their words become sharper, their laughter a little too gleeful, their comments a little too cruel. If you pay attention, you'll see it. The way their energy lifts when others suffer, the way they feed off misery, the way they seem happiest when someone else is at their lowest. But what happens when you are the one in pain? At first, they may pretend to care, especially if there's an audience watching. They might offer words of comfort, play the role of the concerned friend, partner, or family member. But if you look closer, you'll see the truth. They don't actually want you to get better. They don't offer real support. They don't encourage healing. Instead, they keep you stuck, reminding you of your mistakes, subtly tearing you down, making sure you stay small, broken, and dependent. Because the truth is, your pain benefits them. It gives them leverage. It makes them feel superior. It keeps them in control. So how do you protect yourself from someone like this? First, trust your instincts. If someone seems to enjoy others' suffering, don't ignore it. Pay attention to how they talk about people's failures. Notice whether they help people who are struggling or just watch with amusement. And most of all, notice how they treat you when you're vulnerable. Do they comfort you or do they make sure you stay down? Do they lift you up? Or do they remind you of every reason you should feel small? Evil people don't just lack empathy, they thrive on pain. And the moment you see that pattern, the only choice is to walk away. Because real love, real friendship, real connection, those things heal. They don't hurt.